Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the channel. Happy Tuesday, everybody. I hope your day and your week going very well so far. Got a new day, which of course means a new NBA player prop video to share with you guys. But first, as always, people, please make sure to go ahead and hit the subscribe button, hit that like button, and drop a comment down below. It helps the channel grow, and it really does mean a ton to us. With a new day comes some new opportunities to go ahead and make some money. I've got 4 NBA player props to go ahead and share with you guys in tonight's NBA slate. But first, guys, before we dive into today's picks, we do have some business to take care of first. First off, I want to announce that my new NBA podcast titled Yet Another NBA Podcast, it has been delayed for about a week. Now, I did actually record the episode. We were planning to release it yesterday, but I've been switching over to a new editing software. And unfortunately, right now, my personal life just got a lot going on, a lot of stuff happening right now where I just haven't had time to really learn it and kind of teach myself the ropes with this new software. And so in the editing process of the podcast, it just wasn't coming along the way I wanted it to. Now we're on to Tuesday. It was recorded for Monday. And so ultimately I decided to pull the plug on the episode, and we're going to wait till next Monday to go ahead and drop the podcast. Just wanted to go ahead and put that out there for those who were expecting it to come out yesterday. I do apologize for that. I just don't want to put out something that I don't believe is worth putting out. I want to make sure when I do release the podcast, it is worthy of your time and your viewership. So yeah, Yet Another NBA Podcast, episode 1 will drop next Monday. All right, now with that being said, let's do a quick little recap of how I did yesterday before we dive into today's picks. Jumping on over to GuyBostonSports.com. Overall, another positive day. We did profit. We did cash last night. We were very, very, very close from a clean sweep and having a really massive, successful day. But you know what? I'm not going to get too upset. At the end of the day, we did profit yesterday. So we went 2-1 overall. Miles Bridges and Nick Richards both cashed their totals, their player props, whatever you want to say. Miles Bridges over 23.5 points plus assists. That cash, kind of a close, narrow cash, but a cash nonetheless. And Nick Richards under 19.5 points plus rebounds. He dominated. I think he had like 5 points and 4 rebounds. So really good numbers there. The only one that missed was Jason Tatum, over 40.5 points plus rebounds plus assists. He finished with 38. He was so close, but ultimately it was a 40-point blowout, and he didn't play in the fourth quarter. He also shot 9 for 20, so like he played 28 minutes. He still probably should have cashed this line, just did not have a good shooting night, but we were right in terms of his rebounds and assist numbers going up. So close miss, narrow miss, but a miss nonetheless. But still, overall, 2-1 last night. We went up 0.88 units. We're now 109-92 on the season, up 5.63 units in our single bet category. In our parlay category, 9-22, up 6.84 units. So across the board, we are up over 12 units on the show this season. Another positive night last night. Let's keep the momentum riding here, guys. 4 player props coming your way right now. All right, guys, jumping over to the outlier screen here. Our first pick in today's slate comes from the Orlando Magic-Toronto Raptors game, 7:30 p.m. tip-off. We're going Jakob Poeltl of the Toronto Raptors under 13.5 rebounds plus assists. We're getting this one for, let's see, minus 130 on DraftKings. Seems like the most accessible of these odds. But, of course, like most of these player props, they are available on multiple sportsbooks for varying odds. As always, guys, make sure to shop around for the best sportsbook odds available. So minus 130 over on DraftKings. Again, if you have it on Bet365 or you have Caesars, they are slightly better odds over there. The data pretty solid on this prop. You see 7 of his last 10 games, Jakob Poeltl has cashed this under. It's a 70% hit rate, averaging 12.4 rebounds plus assists per game over his last 10 games. Now, you will see over the last 6 games here, he has really gotten close to this line. Even when he misses, he barely misses. So that is something to keep in mind here. He does hover around this line, but the data across the board seems pretty solid. Even look at the last 20 games for Poeltl, a 65% hit rate, 13 out of 20 games he's cashed this under, averaging 11.8 rebounds plus assists per game over his last 20 games. And so far in 2024, a 54% hit rate on this under, 20 out of 37 games. He's cashed the under this season for Toronto, averaging 13.22 rebounds plus assists per game this season. So again, he hovers around the line pretty consistently. The head-to-head data, though, also pretty solid. You see each of his last 2 meetings with the Orlando Magic, he has cashed the under. That's a 100% head-to-head hit rate, averaging 9.5 rebounds plus assists per game. They have played one time this season, a few weeks back on January 3rd. He had 6 rebounds and 2 assists in what was a 9-point loss for Toronto. And he played a lot of minutes, 33.5 minutes in that game, and he finished with just 6 rebounds and 2 assists. Not a lot of potential assists. He had 4 potential assists, finished with 2. His rebound chances, he had 12 rebound chances and finished with 6. And it makes sense. Looking at the right side of the screen here, the defensive matchup, Orlando overall this year, the second best rebounding team in the NBA and the best defensive team in the NBA in terms of assists allowed. to opposing teams. If we narrow this down to just the center position, they are number one in both those categories. Fewest rebounds and fewest assists allowed in the NBA to the center position. So we have a really good matchup on our hands here. And of course, we have the insights provided by Outlier. Shout out to Outlier. Look down below in the pinned comment. There will be a link for a special 7-day free trial to check Outlier out for yourself. All the data, everything you're seeing in this video and all my NBA player prop videos, you can access it for yourself. There's hundreds, no, thousands of player props on here. You can go ahead and check the data. I'm only giving you guys my 3 or 4 favorite plays a day. There's so much more to look at, guys. If you want to check it out for yourself, the link will be in the pinned comment for the 7-day free trial to check out Outlier. Shout out to Outlier for sponsoring today's video. And yeah, the insight provided by Outlier, Jakob Poeltl has failed to exceed 13.5 rebounds plus assists in 7 of his last 9 games, averaging 12 rebounds plus assists per game. It's a 78% hit rate over his last 9 games. So kind of reiterating what we talked about earlier, but across the board, seems like a really good spot here for Poeltl. All right, guys, our second player prop from today's slate comes from the Blazers Heat game, 7:30 p.m. tip-off. We've got Bam Adebayo of the Miami Heat over 28.5 points plus rebounds plus assists. We are getting this for minus 105 odds over on BetMGM, but it is available, of course, on many sportsbooks here for varying odds. The data looks pretty solid here for Bam Adebayo. 6 of his last 10 games, he's cashed the over. It's a 60% hit rate, averaging 27.8 points plus rebounds plus assists per game over his last 10 games. The last 5 game data is not as good for Adebayo, but still overall, we look like we got a pretty good spot here in terms of the data standpoint. In 2024-25 overall, a 57% hit rate on this over, 23 out of 40 games he's cashed it, averaging 30 points plus rebounds plus assists per game, a lot of green and a decent amount of red in there as well. From a head-to-head data standpoint, you see 2 of his last 3 meetings with the Portland Trailblazers. He has cashed the over, a 67% hit rate, averaging 32 points plus rebounds plus assists per game across their last 3 meetings. Now, they have played already once this year, about 10 days ago, back on January 11th, and he did cash the over very slightly, but he still cashed the over nonetheless with 13 points, 11 rebounds, and 6 assists in that game. Now, unfortunately, I don't have the data for rebound chances for that last meeting, which is unfortunate because we could go ahead and see, could he finished with 11 rebounds in that game. Could he have gotten more? Unfortunately, data is not there, but he did have, again, potential assists, no data there either, which is unfortunate. But from a field goal perspective, we do have that data. He took 13 shots in that game, and he shot 6 for 13. So he didn't even shoot the ball all that well, and he still cashed the over. He shoots the ball a little bit better this time around. We could be looking at a pretty good number. He's been averaging about 10.7 rebounds per game across their 3 meetings. I think overall it's still a pretty decent spot, especially when taking into account that the Trailblazers, are one of the worst teams defensively in the NBA against centers. Look at the right side of the screen over here versus centers. The Blazers, 25th in points, 26th in rebounds, and 29th in assists allowed to opposing centers. So we got a pretty good matchup on our hands here with Bam Adebayo. We also have the insights provided by Outlier. Bam Adebayo has exceeded 28.5 points plus rebounds plus assists in 12 of his last 14 games versus bottom 10 defenses for points allowed. He's averaging 34.3 points plus rebounds plus assists per game across those last 14 games versus bottom 10 defenses for points allowed overall. Portland this year, the 24th ranked team in the NBA in terms of points allowed. So an 86% hit rate. Looks like we got pretty good numbers here across the board, including the last time they played Portland just about 10 days ago. All right, guys, our third player prop in today's slate comes from the Knicks-Nets game, 7:30 p.m. tip-off. I've got Josh Hart of the New York Knicks over 27.5 points plus rebounds plus assists. We are getting this player prop for minus 115 odds over on FanDuel. The data, again, like most of these props, looks to be pretty solid here. 8 of his last 10 games, he's cashed the over. It's an 80% hit rate, averaging 30.2 points plus rebounds plus assists per game across his last 10 games. We have some very narrow cashes in there. See, 28, 28. 28. Some very close, narrow cashes, but they are cashes nonetheless. The Knicks are also playing on the second night of a back-to-back, which is worth mentioning here. The overall data in this season, 2024-25, a 63% hit rate on this over for Josh Hart. 27 out of 43 games, he's cashed the over, averaging 29.21 points plus rebounds plus assists per game. You see a lot of green of late here for Josh Hart. If we narrow it down to the last 20 games, you'll see a 70% hit rate, 14 of his last 20 games, averaging 30.4 points plus rebounds plus assists per game. A lot of green. He had a really nice streak there for a while. A couple of misses scattered in there, but for the most part, he's been red hot at covering this line. Overall, this year, when Josh Hart plays on the second night of a back-to-back, we do have pretty decent data still, a 60% hit rate. 3 of his last 5 games playing on the second night of a back-to-back, he has cashed the over, averaging 26.6 points plus rebounds plus assists per game. He's actually cashed the over in 3 straight games on back-to-backs. We also have the insights provided by Outlier. Again, kind of reiterating what we've already talked about here. Josh Hart has exceeded 27.5 points plus rebounds plus assists in 13 of his last 15 games, averaging 32.6 points plus rebounds plus assists per game across his last 15 games. That is an 87% hit rate. So really good data here for Josh Hart. Now, the one area where the data is not great is the head-to-head category. You see just 2 of his last 6 meetings with the Brooklyn Nets, he's cashed the over, just a 33% hit rate, averaging 25 points plus rebounds plus assists per game across his last 6 meetings with the Brooklyn Nets. However, if we narrow this down to this season, you'll see both times he played Brooklyn this year, back on November 15th and November 17th, he's cashed the over both times he played them this year. Remember, last year, he was being guarded by his current teammate, Mikal Bridges. So very different Nets team this year to last year. So far this year, he's had a pretty decent amount of success against this Nets team. Obviously, we know the minutes. He's going to play a ton of minutes in these games. 40 minutes the last time on November 15th, 46 minutes the next time on November 17th. We know he's going to play a ton of minutes here. He doesn't take a ton of shots, although the last time they played, he did take 13 shot attempts against Brooklyn. But he is averaging 16.7 rebound chances per game against Brooklyn. Now, the last time only 11 rebound chances, but the previous time on November 15th, he had 20 rebound chances. And then potential assists 17 on November 15th and 9 on November 17th. So a pretty decent amount of usage data, although the head-to-head data is okay. The last 2 times he played them, the 2 times they played this year, he has a 100% hit rate overall this season against Brooklyn. Now, Josh Hart is listed as a shooting guard. He plays between shooting guard and small forward. The shooting guard numbers, Brooklyn ranks a little bit better, but versus small forward, you see 28th in points allowed, 29th in assists allowed, and 10th in rebounds allowed. Overall, I think we got a pretty solid defensive matchup on our hands here for Josh Hart against a Brooklyn Nets team that's missing a ton of pieces. All right, guys, we have 1 player prop left in today's video. If you are still watching at this point, please comment 12 down below, as we are just about to hit the 12-minute mark in today's video. As always, guys, I appreciate those who watch all the way through and listen to all the analysis, all the insight, all the data for each and every player prop. Guys, appreciate you a ton. So comment 12 down below if you are still watching at this point in today's video. All right, our 4th and final player prop in today's slate might be a controversial one to some, but I promise you guys, good matchup and good data overall. We're going Lakers-Wizards, 10:30 p.m. tip-off. We're going Jordan Poole of the Washington Wizards over 19.5 points. We're getting this one for -130 odds over on FanDuel. Like I said, I know Jordan Poole, a lot of guys would have him on their no-bet list. I understand he was on my do-not-bet list last season. But the numbers this year look pretty good for Jordan Poole. He's cashed this over in 7 of his last 10 games, a 70% hit rate, averaging 23.4 points per game over his last 10 games. So pretty good numbers over the last 10 games for Jordan Poole. So far this year in totality, a 65% hit rate on this over for Jordan Poole. 22 out of 34 games he's cashed it, averaging 21.56 points per game this season. And from a head-to-head standpoint, now he has not played the Lakers yet this year, but each of their previous two meetings dating back to last season, he cashed the over both times, 100% hit rate, averaging 31.5 points per game across those 2 meetings against the Lakers. We also have the insights provided by Outlier. Jordan Poole has exceeded 19.5 points in 10 of his last 13 games, averaging 23.7 points per game across those last 13 games. That is a 77% hit rate across his last 13 games. He plays a healthy amount of minutes, and the shots, of course, is the big thing. He's taking about 17.5 shot attempts per game, almost 11 threes per game, which is really good. The volume there is the really important part of this matchup. Look at the defensive matchup. Overall, the Lakers 17th in the NBA in points allowed, but in the backcourt here, I know it says they're really good defensively versus point guards, but let me be the first to say, over the last 10 to 15 games, that has not necessarily been the case. Versus shooting guards as well, they are 22nd in the NBA, giving with 29.2 points per game this year. Jordan Poole plays between point guard and shooting guard for the Wizards. Whatever the case may be, the Lakers are not very good defensively in the backcourt. I think Jordan Poole is going to have a really good game here. 20 points feels like a very good line for him to hit. Again, when you're taking 11 three-pointers per game, 17, almost 18 shots per game, 20 points should be expected as long as you're shooting at least 45% from the floor. So, all right, guys, those are all 4 picks in today's slate. Quick little recap here. We have Bam Adebayo for the Miami Heat, over 28.5 points plus rebounds plus assists. We have Jordan Poole of the Washington Wizards, over 19.5 points. We have Jakob Poeltl of the Toronto Raptors, under 13.5 rebounds plus assists. And we have Josh Hart of the New York Knicks, over 27.5 points plus rebounds plus assists. Again, these are all single bets. However, if you do want to parlay them together, that is your choice, your prerogative. It is plus 935 on DraftKings if you wanted to. But yeah, these are all meant to be single bets. But as always, guys, it's like a buffet. You take it and you do what you want with it. All right, guys, that is it for me today. Thank you very much always for watching. One more time, guys, please make sure to go ahead and hit the subscribe button, hit that like button, button and drop a comment down below. I'll be back tomorrow with another NBA player prop video. But until then, I hope you're all winners. Enjoy your Tuesday, guys. Let's go ahead and make some money.